They laughed. They pointed. They, the polished and the preened, dismissed her with a glance, a sneer, a flick of their perfectly manicured hands. She was old, they thought. Her clothes, faded and worn, spoke of a life spent in the shadows, a life of endless toil. She was nothing to them, a ghost in the opulent halls of the Grand Imperial Galleria, a monument to their own fleeting importance. The Galleria itself was a cathedral of commerce, its marble floors gleaming under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. It stretched, vast and echoing, a labyrinth of luxury boutiques and exclusive dining establishments. The air, thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and polished wood, buzzed with the low hum of hushed conversations and the rhythmic clinking of fine silverware. It was a place where fortunes were flaunted, where status was measured in the weight of a shopping bag, the gleam of a wristwatch. And in this temple of excess, she, Alara, the maid's daughter, moved like a whisper, almost invisible. Alara was not a maid, not truly. She was a cleaner, a quiet fixture in the early mornings, her broom a silent companion to the rising sun. She kept the Galleria pristine, scrubbing away the faint traces of the previous day's indulgence, preparing it for the next wave of the privileged. Her hands, gnarled and calloused, told a story of hard work, a story few cared to read. Her hair, a wispy gray, was often pulled back in a simple bun, her face etched with the subtle lines of a life lived, observed, but rarely acknowledged. She was a shadow, a presence, a quiet hum in the background of their vibrant lives. Today, however, was different. Today, she was not sweeping. Today, she was waiting. Her mother, who had served the opulent families of the city for decades, was unwell. Alara had promised to collect her mother's last paycheck, a small sum, but vital. She stood near the customer service desk, a small, unassuming figure amidst the grandeur, her worn purse clutched tight in her hand. Her eyes, a startling shade of clear blue, observed everything, missing nothing, though her expression remained placid, unreadable. The crowd began to gather, a ripple of curiosity spreading through the Galleria. It started with a low murmur, then grew into a collective gasp. At the center of the growing circle of onlookers stood a man, a figure of immense wealth and power, Sheikh Al-Ahmad. He was a titan of industry, a name whispered with reverence in financial circles across the globe. Today he was attempting to purchase a rare, antique timepiece, a marvel of intricate craftsmanship, its value astronomical. The sheikh, a man accustomed to deference, radiated an aura of effortless authority. His robes, woven from the finest silk, shimmered with subtle gold embroidery. His movements were precise, deliberate. He spoke in a low, resonant voice, his words carrying the weight of his station. But now, his face, usually composed, was etched with a flicker of confusion, then annoyance. The young woman behind the counter, her uniform crisp, her smile practiced, looked flustered. She spoke in hushed tones, her hands fluttering nervously. The sheikh's card, she explained, had been declined. Not once, but twice. A glitch, perhaps, a temporary issue. But the machine, an unyielding arbiter of financial reality, refused to yield. A hush fell over the crowd. A sheikh's card declined? It was unthinkable. A breach of the natural order. Whispers spread like wildfire, fueled by a mixture of schadenfreude and genuine disbelief. Some openly snickered. Others averted their gaze, embarrassed for him. But the sheikh, though momentarily discomposed, quickly regained his composure. He produced another card, then another. Each time, the machine responded with the same, infuriating rejection. His assistant, a young man in an impeccably tailored suit, rushed forward, his face a mask of concern. He spoke rapidly into a small device, his voice urgent. But the problem persisted. The sheikh's accounts, it seemed, were momentarily inaccessible. A system-wide error, the assistant explained, a temporary freeze on all his financial instruments. It was an unprecedented situation, a bizarre anomaly. The antique timepiece, shimmering under the display lights, seemed to mock him, a symbol of his sudden, unexpected vulnerability. The shop manager, a portly man with a perpetually anxious expression, wrung his hands. He offered apologies, assurances, anything to placate the powerful man, but the situation remained unchanged. The sheik could not complete the purchase. Alara, a silent observer, watched it all unfold. Her eyes, calm and steady, took in the shifting expressions of the crowd, the sheik's quiet frustration, the manager's growing panic. She saw the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the way the air grew thick with a strange, uncomfortable tension. She understood the weight of the moment, the sudden, unexpected humiliation of a man who had never known want. The sheik, with a sigh of resignation, prepared to leave. He would return, he assured the manager, once the technical difficulties were resolved. But the embarrassment lingered, a palpable presence in the air. He had been exposed, however briefly, as something less than infallible. His power, for a fleeting moment, had been stripped away. It was then that Alara moved. She stepped forward, a small, almost imperceptible shift in the crowd. Her worn purse, still clutched in her hand, seemed insignificant against the backdrop of such wealth. The crowd, caught up in the drama of the sheik's predicament, barely noticed her. The sheik, his back to her, was already turning away, his shoulders slightly slumped. "Excuse me," she said, her voice soft but clear. The sound, unexpected, cut through the murmurs. Heads turned. The sheik paused, then slowly turned back, his gaze falling upon her. He saw an old woman, simply dressed, her face lined with age. He saw nothing remarkable, nothing of importance. "Yes?" he asked, his tone polite, but tinged with a hint of impatience. Alara took another step closer. "Perhaps," she began, her voice still quiet, "I can help." A ripple of stifled laughter spread through the crowd. "Help? This old woman? What could she possibly do?" The shop manager, recovering from his initial shock, stepped forward, a look of polite condescension on his face. "Madam," he said, "I assure you, we are handling the situation. The sheik's financial matters are complex." Alara ignored him. Her eyes, those clear blue eyes, were fixed on the sheik. "I have some funds," she offered, her voice unwavering. "Perhaps enough to cover the purchase." Now, the laughter was less stifled. Some openly guffawed. A few women, draped in designer silks, exchanged amused glances. The idea was preposterous. This old woman, offering to pay for a timepiece worth more than their collective annual incomes? It was a jest, a cruel joke. The sheik, however, did not laugh. He looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time. He saw not just an old woman, but a quiet dignity, an earnestness that transcended her humble appearance. He saw no mockery in her eyes, only a genuine offer. "Madam," he said, his voice softer now, "I appreciate your kindness. But the amount is substantial." "I understand," Alara replied, her gaze steady. "But I believe I have enough. It is my mother's savings, you see. For a rainy day." She paused, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in her voice. "And it is raining, is it not?" A profound silence descended upon the galleria. The laughter died. The whispers ceased. The sheer audacity of her offer, coupled with the simple, profound truth of her words, struck them dumb. A woman of such humble means, offering her life savings to a billionaire sheik. It was an act of pure, unadulterated generosity, a gesture that defied all logic, all expectation. The sheik's eyes, usually sharp and calculating, softened. He saw not a cleaner, not a maid's daughter, but a human being, offering succor in a moment of unexpected vulnerability. He felt a strange warmth spread through him, a feeling he rarely encountered in his world of transactions and acquisitions. "Madam," he said, his voice now laced with genuine respect, "I cannot possibly accept." "Please," Alara insisted, her voice gaining a touch of quiet strength. "It is not for you entirely. It is for the principle, for the idea that we can help each other when the systems fail us. And," she added, a faint, wistful smile touching her lips, "my mother always said, a good deed is its own reward." The sheik was moved. He had encountered countless acts of sycophancy, of calculated generosity, but never anything quite like this. This was pure, unadulterated compassion. He looked at the antique timepiece, then back at Alara. A decision formed in his mind. "Very well," he said, a faint smile gracing his lips. "But on one condition." Alara raised an eyebrow, a hint of curiosity in her gaze. "You must allow me to repay you the sheik continued, with interest. And you must allow me to thank you, properly. Alara nodded, a small, serene smile now playing on her lips. That would be most kind, Sheikh Al-Hamad. She opened her worn purse. Inside, meticulously folded, were stacks of crisp banknotes. It was a substantial sum, clearly the accumulation of a lifetime of frugal living, of careful saving. She counted out the exact amount, her movements precise, practiced. The crowd watched, mesmerized, as the old woman, the cleaner, paid for the billionaire's luxury item. The shop manager, his face a mixture of awe and embarrassment, processed the payment. The transaction went through, smoothly, without a hitch. The antique timepiece was wrapped, carefully, reverently. The sheik took the package, then turned to Alara. He took her gnarled hand in his grip gentle, respectful. Thank you, Alara, he said, his voice low, sincere. You have taught me a valuable lesson today. Alara simply nodded, her eyes shining with a quiet understanding. She had done what she felt was right. She had offered a hand, not to a sheik, but to a man in need. The crowd, once mocking, now stood in stunned silence. The shift in their perception was palpable. They had witnessed something extraordinary, something that transcended wealth and status, something profoundly human. They had seen an act of quiet heroism, a moment of pure, unadulterated grace. An older man, standing at the edge of the crowd, cleared his throat. He wore a simple, well-maintained suit, his face etched with the wisdom of years. He had been an observer throughout the entire drama, his eyes, sharp and knowing, missing nothing. He was a retired police officer, a man who had seen the best and worst of humanity. He had noticed Alara from the moment she walked in, a flicker of recognition in his gaze. Alara, he said, his voice carrying across the hushed galleria. Isn't that right? Alara turned, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She recognized him, vaguely, from her youth. I remember you, the man continued, a warm smile spreading across his face. Alara, the daughter of the late General Alistair Vance's housemaid. You used to play in the gardens of the Vance estate, didn't you? A collective gasp swept through the crowd. General Alistair Vance. The name was legendary. A decorated war hero, a man of immense integrity and unwavering courage, revered throughout the nation. And Alara, this humble cleaner, was connected to him. Yes, Alara confirmed, her voice soft. My mother worked for the general for many years. He was a kind man. The retired officer nodded. Indeed. And you, Alara, you were no ordinary child. I remember the general himself speaking of you. He said you had a mind like a steel trap, a heart of gold, and a spirit fiercer than any soldier he'd ever commanded. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the astonished faces in the crowd. He even offered to pay for your education, didn't he? To send you to the finest universities. Alara's eyes held a distant, melancholic look. He did, she said. But my mother fell ill. I chose to stay and care for her. It was my duty. The officer nodded again, his eyes filled with admiration. And you did so, with unwavering devotion. A true testament to your character. But what many don't know, he added, his voice rising slightly, is that before that, you were a prodigy. The general, seeing your extraordinary talent, personally tutored you in strategy, in logic, in the art of observation. He often said you could spot a flaw in a plan faster than any of his top strategists. He called you his little general. The Galleria was utterly silent. The revelation hung in the air, a shimmering truth that reshaped everything they thought they knew about Alara. The quiet cleaner, the maid's daughter, was not just a generous soul. She was a woman of extraordinary intellect, a hidden gem, forged in the crucible of duty and quiet sacrifice. Her humility, once mistaken for insignificance, was now revealed as a profound strength. The sheik, his eyes wide with surprise, looked at Alara with renewed awe. He saw not just the kind woman who had helped him, but the sharp mind, the deep character that the retired officer had described. He saw a legacy, a quiet brilliance that had chosen a path of service over one of personal glory. Alara, he said, his voice almost a whisper, why did you never speak of this? She offered a small, knowing smile. It was not necessary. My life was my choice. And my mother needed me. Her gaze swept over the stunned faces of the crowd. True worth, she said, her voice clear and resonant, is not found in titles, or in wealth, or in the accolades of others. It is found in the choices we make, in the kindness we offer, in the duties we fulfill. The crowd, once so quick to judge, now stood humbled, their faces etched with a mixture of shame and reverence. They had seen a glimpse of something pure, something profoundly good, and it had shaken them to their core. They had learned a lesson in humility, a lesson in seeing beyond the superficial, in recognizing the hidden depths of the human spirit. The sheikh, true to his word, repaid Alara's generosity many times over. He did not just return her mother's savings with interest. He established a foundation in her mother's name, dedicated to supporting elderly caregivers, ensuring that no one had to choose between their education and their duty. He personally oversaw the construction of a new, state-of-the-art medical facility for the community, ensuring that quality healthcare was accessible to all, especially those who had spent their lives in service to others. He often visited Alara, not as a powerful sheikh, but as a friend, seeking her quiet wisdom, her insightful observations. He found in her a moral compass, a steady presence that reminded him of the true values in life, values that often got lost in the pursuit of power and wealth. Alara, however, never sought fame or recognition. She continued her quiet life, her days filled with the simple rhythms of her routine. She still walked through the Galleria, though now, the glances she received were different. They were no longer dismissive, but respectful, even reverent. The story of Alara, the maid's daughter, became a legend in the city. It was told and retold, a fable whispered among the rich and the poor, a testament to the idea that true worth often resides in the most unexpected places, hidden beneath layers of humility and quiet strength. The Galleria, once a symbol of ostentatious wealth, became, for many, a place where a profound lesson had been learned, a place where the superficial had been stripped away, revealing the enduring power of compassion and quiet dignity. The young, arrogant faces that had laughed at her, the polished individuals who had dismissed her, now felt the sting of their own prejudice. They had judged a book by its cover, and in doing so, had missed the most compelling story of all. They learned that wealth could vanish, status could crumble, but true character, forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by kindness, would always endure. And Alara, the quiet master, receded back into her life, as she always had. She sought no accolades, no public praise. Her reward was in the quiet knowledge that she had done what was right, that she had lived a life of purpose, a life guided by integrity and unconditional love. She had proven, in the most dramatic way possible, that the greatest treasures are not found in vaults, but in the human heart, freely given, humbly offered. The moral of the story, clear and resonant, echoed through the halls of the Grand Imperial Galleria and far beyond. True worth is not found in outward appearances, nor in the fleeting accumulation of wealth, but in the quiet strength of character, the profound depth of kindness, and the unwavering courage to do what is right, even when the world is watching and judging. Respect, it taught them, must be earned, not demanded. And humility, far from being a weakness, is often the greatest virtue of all, a silent testament to an inner strength that can move mountains and change hearts.